Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of our Southern California first-time buyer market update. This is for January 28th, 2022. My name is Stephen Meade with Domicile Real Estate, where we are on a mission to help California's renters become homeowners. And I heard something yesterday, and I'm not going to take credit for this being something that I thought of, but I thought this was a very interesting perspective on something. So if I were to ask any of you, in the last 18 months, were we in a buyer's market or a seller's market? I bet 90% plus of you will say we were absolutely and continue to be in a seller's market. And I'm going to disagree with you. And I'm going to give you a different sense of perspective on the market. If you bought a home about 18 months ago, right, which would have been in the summer of 2020, it was a very busy real estate market. But think about this for a second. Let's compare how did things turn out if you were a buyer and if you were a seller, especially if you were a seller who did not buy anything else. Well, if you were a buyer, you obtained a house at a significant discount versus today's pricing if you had bought in the summer of 2020. If you were a seller, you sold your house way too cheap and you left money on the table, especially if you didn't buy something else, right, that appreciated. Also, you probably had a chance to refinance if you were a buyer during that period and get an even lower payment than you had when you originally bought your house between then and now. So sometimes this idea of whether a market is favorable to buyers or sellers really does depend a little bit on your perspective. Just something to think about in a real estate market like today. One of my own personal phrases that I've been fond of saying is, I think it's a great time to buy a house. I don't think it's an easy time to buy a house. And I think there's a very big distinction between easy and good. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the stats to give you a little bit more quantitative perspective on the market. So let's go back up here and look at our entry-level home price closed values. So just as a reminder here, we look at our quartile pricing. This is to approximate an entry level into the market. Our entry level home on the blue line is a single family 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and our entry level condo on the red is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath configuration. And then that first quartile pricing is meant to be towards the more entry level end of the market for that property type. I kind of gloss over this a lot of times, but if you look back here, 2018, we were $545,000. As of last week, $716,000. Remember, this is looking back 4 to 6 weeks, and there is some volatility week to week. If you look down here in our condo market, something that I want to point out to you is that, the single family market rose a lot more quickly, but then it kind of mostly leveled out to some degree with it stayed fairly level. The condo market's been a much smoother but continual increase over time. And I think it's interesting about that. I've talked about that before, that I think the condo market actually has a little bit of longer legs in it in terms of likely to go up. So if you're a condo buyer, absolutely do not wait. So just for fun, we always like to look at the idea of payment. Where are we? We're kind of a little in the 4,000s over here. Think about 4,250 for our single family, entry level single family. And that's based on 5% down, including mortgage, insurances, taxes. And we are around 3,369 here for our entry level condo. These are, of course, payments. By the way, I just want to relate kind of an interesting story. And we don't deal a lot in rental properties. We do them on occasion. We do rental analysis for our clients sometimes as well. But I took a look. If you want to rent a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, over 1,000 square foot, relatively new apartment in Orange County, the going rate for that is pretty much in the low to mid $3,000 range. So think about that for a second as we take a look back here at these payments, especially on this condo, on that entry-level condo. That's right around what we're talking. The difference, of course, being that when you own the condo, you actually get potential tax advantages, as well as a significant portion of your payment going towards principal. So even if the condo doesn't go up in value at all over the next 20 years, you will build equity by paying down that loan at a pretty significant rate. Finally, what is our minimum household income required to qualify? We're right here around $104,000, $103,000 for our entry-level single-family home, and then $82,500 for our entry-level condo. So, that's our affordability end of the market. But let's go ahead and take a look at where we are in terms of that availability. And really, that's probably what most of you are here for. Here is our absorption rate to give you an idea of market competitiveness. Now, we had quite a bit of ups and downs because of timing with the holiday. Things have stabilized, and look at where we are. We're 95% on the condo market and 93% on our entry-level single-family home. I haven't done this in a while, but generally speaking, 70 to 80% is a strong seller's market or leverage in favor of the seller. 80 to 90 is a very strong market, and 90 plus is really a shortage of listings happening. When you see 95, when we are burning at a rate of 95% of what comes on the market, really there's not enough load coming in, because remember, not all of these homes will sell that come on the market. Total inventory. So let's just take a second and understand something. So if you look, there was a bump in inventory, and then we kind of fell and deteriorated. Look at where we are versus where we were last year. And first, I'm going to talk about entry-level single-family homes. Here we are riding around 950 units. This time last year, where were we? A little under 1,200. We're down approximately 20-25% for those entry-level single-family homes, right? Last year's inventory was obviously not great. This year is worse. But really, let's look at the story on condos here. Where were we last year? Well, last year we were at just under 1,400 units available. Where are we today? 700 units, or a 50% reduction in available inventory versus last year. Go ahead and write in the comments. Are you noticing this when you go online, when you look at websites? Are you seeing differences in inventory level? We also have a secondary measure of market competitiveness. This is our 14 days still active. So we look back at all the listings that came on the market in the last 14 days, and we say, what percentage of those listings are still active and available for offers? And you see we're below 70%. So it is more competitive than we were largely through the end of spring, summer, and fall. So we are in a more competitive environment than that. Finally, we have a weak supply of homes. And someone asked me, what's the difference between active inventory and weak supply of homes? Well, active inventory is an absolute number, right? I have 100 houses, I have 200 houses, I have 1,000 houses for sale, right? That is an absolute number. But weeks of inventory is a relative number. So it sort of tries to say, well, based on how fast homes are selling, how much inventory do we really have? Like, can we give some context to that number? Is 1,000 a lot? If you're only selling one house a week, 1,000 homes in inventory is a ton of inventory, right? But what if you're selling 1,000 houses every week? Well, then having 1,000 active houses is not very much inventory at all. So weeks of inventory is meant to provide us with a relative inventory figure that we can compare. And so if you take a look at this here, we have never had a situation where condos were this close to single family homes. We have 3.19 weeks. In fact, this is a new low point for condo inventory. And then we are down here under 3 weeks of inventory for our entry-level single family homes, which is right about where we were last year. So, by one measure, we're worse off than last year by about 20%. By another measure, we're kind of pacing about the same. We did see that inventory dip through February to below 2.5 weeks. I'm curious to see if that will happen again this spring. So, one of the things that we've been talking a little bit about the last couple of weeks is, are interest rates having a significant effect on the market? And my hypothesis is that we are so undersupplied that interest rates are going to have to move a lot more and a lot more quickly than they have to really clamp down on demand. And we are seeing demand reduced a little bit, right? I mean, we are seeing that because if it weren't, our weeks of inventory would be a lot lower than it was last year, and it's not, it's the same. So, depending on how you look at it, things are a little worse than last year if you're a buyer, but not really that much worse. Now, of course, in the global sense, right? If you're a buyer this year, you probably wish you were a buyer last spring, right? Because prices were less and interest rates were lower. One other thing I want to talk about real quick is that we have a link below for something new. It is our own real estate app. So we actually worked to have our own real estate app made. It's in the App Store under Domicile RE. You can look it up in either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. We're going to actually put a link to download that in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. Why should you do this? Well, the number one reason is, unlike a lot of third-party apps, we do not sell your data to third parties. We don't sell it out the back end. You're not going to start getting ads from moving companies and everything else. But the other reason is, it means if you see something, a house that's interesting and you want to ask a question about it, there's a direct line to us to be able to do that, which is pretty cool. So you can just look something up and say, hey, do you know anything about this neighborhood? Do you know anything about this condo complex? And we can give you a quick answer on that from right within the app, which is pretty cool. Also, we have a no cost, no obligation 15-minute consultation. There is a link to schedule that down below. So absolutely click on that. And then finally, do not forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you will know about all of our future videos. And as always, we love questions and comments. And if you or someone you know is or should be buying a home, absolutely get in touch with us. We would love to help you. We will see you again real soon.